Qualitative research is used to comprehend phenomena by using in-depth narrative data. The data is collected using content analysis, observations, and interviews, while quantitative research is objective and numerical, dealing with the collection and analysis of raw data using surveys and statistical models. To analyze a kicking motion, qualitative research is best suited for the aim of breaking down phases of this motion. Video analysis allows one to concentrate on the form and technique of the motion. Furthermore, video studies can help researchers as well as athletes study the form of a kick as well as make improvements. This can only be done with context and in-depth review provided by the qualitative research, which is able to capture context and detail in movement. The skill is performed as you swing your leg and make contact with the ball. The movement ends when the ball is accelerating and your foot is no longer in contact with it. Kicking is a skill that consists of a single, brief action with a clear, defined start and finish. Therefore, it is known as a discrete skill. Kicking is a multi-planar, intricate pattern of whole body joint and segment motions. In open kinetic chain exercises, the distal aspect, typically the hand or the foot, is the segment that is most distal from the body and is free to move without being attached to anything. The closed chain exercise is stationary or fixed. The kick can therefore be considered as an open chain exercise since the distal segment of the movement is not stationary. If there is a link in the chain that lacks strength, the kick will lose power and accuracy. The kinetic chain that transfers power to the soccer ball passes through the hip joint, which joins the femur to the pelvis. With that in mind, taking a comprehensive strategy and assessing athletes' kinetic chain integrity can greatly boost efforts to increase athletic performance and reduce risk of injury. The study of biomechanics examines how athletes manage their center of gravity and disperse their weight. The average position of all the mass in the bodily system is called the center of mass. For a kicker, their center of mass usually starts slightly forward and overhead the foot that is stable, preparing for the opposite leg to swing. As soon as it does, the center of mass shifts backwards and then suddenly forward again to align with the stable leg, and this ensures maximal stability. Once momentum is maintained, the center of mass projects forward after contact, preventing a fall. There are a few stability constraints to consider, starting with the base of support and the foot that you stand on. Dynamic balance is the major element of the kick as the body shifts its weight throughout the movement to compensate, along with the positions of the arms. Extending the arms away from the body creates a steadier kick and a more balanced individual. During a kicking motion, most of the force is produced by the muscles of the lower limb. These include those of the quadricep group, which are located on the anterior upper thigh. At the beginning of the kicking movement, they activate by flexing the knee and extending the hip, and in the last phase, before follow through with the kick, the quads then act by extending the knee and flexing the hip. The iliopsoas originates anteriorly and functions to flex the knee and stabilize the hip. The gluteus maximus is located posteriorly and functions to extend the hip and helps to prepare the kick as it contracts concentrically to extend the hip joint, allowing the leg to move backwards, which creates a momentum and power to swing the leg forward. The hamstrings are located on the posterior thigh and they function to flex the knee. They also assist in the extension of the hip and act as a stabilizer for the pelvis and the knee. They are responsible for decelerating speed of the movement leg during the final phase of the movement. The gastrocnemius is located in the calf and it assists with knee flexion and stability, and it contributes to the final follow-through of the ball. The soleus is located in the calf and its primary function is plantar flexion, which means pointing the toes downwards of the foot, which increases the angle between the top of the foot and the shin. This allows accurate contact with the ball and power. The kicking leg has 3 axes of rotation. The hip, which rotates laterally, the knee, which rotates medially, and the ankle, which results in abduction of the foot. All the axes of rotations create a certain angle around a pivot point in the segment, which determines the angular velocity of each segment. The phases of movement. The first phase is known as preparation phase, where the individual runs forward to the ball and places the non-dominant leg slightly next to the ball, and the dominant leg pulls away from the ball by the action of hip extension and knee flexion, which will later on increase the impulse created on the ball by the foot. The second phase is known as the driving phase, where the hip of the dominant leg flexes with the knee still flexed, and once the knee reaches its peak angular velocity, the foot accelerates forward as a result of knee extension. The third and final stage is the follow-through stage, where the foot has already contacted the ball, and it is actually important for injury prevention of the muscles and the joints. When looking at the kinematics involved in kicking, we can analyze the forces exerted on the ball. When the ball is stationary, there is no resultant forces. For the ball to move after the transfer of energy, the ball must overcome the resistance of friction. This can be accomplished by the athlete exerting a greater kicking force. This relates to Newton's first law. The ball will resist motion when at rest. The concept of kicking also displays Newton's second law, which states when a force is exerted on an object, that object will accelerate in the direction of the force applied. The greater the force or velocity equals the greater acceleration, which result in a large distance for the ball to travel in the direction of the force applied.